Court's been asked to grant a guardianship in this case. May I have the names of our participants, please, and let's begin in the courtroom.
Michael Brooks, guardian ad litem.
Michael McFarland, representing Mr. Ferguson. Please introduce yourself to the judge.
I'm Mr. Ferguson.
Your Honor, I have some preliminary comments to make.
There's a couple of more participants. We've got to hear from Ms. Biardi.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Kristen Biardi appearing for the petitioner.
And from CMH?
I'm Sheila Sears, his case manager.
I'm sorry, what was your last name?
Sears, S-E-A-R-S.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. All right, Mr. Brooks, you have some preliminaries.
Your Honor.
Introduce yourself.
I think she's just here observing, but you're welcome to introduce yourself if you like.
Jen Carpenter from Community Mental Health. I'm the clinical director.
Thank you. All right.
Well, Your Honor, it's this. You have two reports from me. One earlier and saying I would not approve a guardianship, and you have the one in front of you that I just handed you. It says essentially the same thing, but the reasons are different. The reason I didn't approve it the second time was because I was unfamiliar with who the report for the healthcare professional was from. I am not familiar with this person, but I am being told by Mr. McFarland, who has all sorts of credibility with me, that she is a qualified healthcare professional. And if that's the case, and this court does agree with Mr. McFarland, I reverse my opinion and recommend that a guardian be given to Mr. Ferguson.
Very well. Well, Ms. Biardi, at risk of telling you how to run your case, or maybe just anticipating what you were already going to do, why don't we call Ms. Flores first and let Mr. Brooks go through any questions he may have on the qualifications. Your thoughts?
I think that makes a lot of sense, Your Honor. I agree.
Ms. Flores.
For the record, I would concur. I would agree that she is qualified as an expert in the field of psychology.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, Ms. Biardi, we'll let you lead Ms. Flores through those questions whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Ms. Flores. The court has already recognized that you're qualified as an expert. Could you just state for Mr. Brooks, the guardian ad litem, your clinical specialty, please?
My specialty is in clinical psychology. I currently work as the behavioral psychologist at Community Mental Health. I got my master's degree in clinical psychology from University of Detroit Mercy. And I got my undergraduate degree in clinical psychology from Madonna University.
In your capacity at Community Mental Health, are you familiar with Mr. Ferguson, for whom a guardian is being requested in this matter?
Yes, I have worked with him for over a year.
And in that capacity, how many times have you met with Mr. Ferguson?
I'd say over 20, over 20, maybe over 30, quite a few.
Is that a normal amount of time that you would interact with a consumer at CMH in your professional experience?
It's give or take. I'm including not only the monthly monitorings and the in-services of his behavior plan, but also I just tend to run into him when I go to the, where he lives to see other people as well. And I'll usually just have a short conversation with him while I'm there as well, just to say hi and see what he's up to.
Can you tell the court where Mr. Ferguson resides?
He currently resides at a specialized residential home on Riverside in Adrian, Michigan.
Do you know how long he's resided there?
He's resided there, would you say about 9-10 months?
About a year.
About a year already? About a year? Okay, yeah.
Okay, we can only have one person testifying at a time. That's okay. It just gets really confusing with the record.
Sorry. It's been about a year. If I've been working with him for a year, I want to say it's been about 10 to 11 months. He lived in Jackson for about a month to a month and a half before.
And before he was at Riverside, you mentioned he was in Jackson. He's been in specialized residential placement for some time, correct?
Yes, as long as I've known him.
In your clinical professional opinion, is Riverside the best environment for Mr. Ferguson at this time?
I believe it is, yeah. I believe it is for sure.
And it's in his best interest to continue residing there and receiving that care.
Yes, it is.
You submitted a report in support of this petition for guardian. Is that correct?
I did.
And that was a report dated January 10th of this year.
Yes, it sounds about right.
And that report states that you examined Mr. Ferguson on January 2nd. Does that meet your recollection?
Yeah, I usually meet with him about the 1st or 2nd of the month.
And the information that you provided in your report in support of this petition, that remains accurate and true and correct to this day, to the best of your knowledge?
Yeah, his symptoms have not changed.
Can you just describe very briefly? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what the objection was.
It was inconsequential. What was your question?
I was just going to ask you.
Before we get back to that, Mr. Brooks, do you have any questions for Ms. Flores as to her qualifications?
No,
Are you satisfied with her qualifications to testify in the capacity as the treating psychologist, would you say? Yes.
yes,
All right. I will accept that then and your testimony as an expert in that capacity moving forward, and obviously with respect to what you've talked about so far.
Thank you.
Ms. Verity, your next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you just briefly tell the court the conclusions in your report and add anything else that you would like to tell the court about this matter?
Greg has been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder by bipolar type. So he has very fluctuating moods that go up and down throughout the month. He is a very congenial guy who's very nice, but his moods can fluctuate, and he also experiences polydipsia as a side effect of some of his medications, which causes him to excessively drink amounts of water and not feel as though he's quenched his thirst. And so recently it came to my attention that on his part of his behavior plan that I implemented over a year ago states that home staff needs to encourage him to stop drinking water, and prompt him to, hey, use a smaller cup, maybe you should choose something else and, stop drinking water, choose this instead, have some fruit such as watermelon, et cetera, et cetera. And Greg, as a very willful person, he is his own guardian and he has the right to refuse that, to the detriment of his health, and and the consequence of some of that is exacerbated symptoms of the disorder that he does have. And so it has become an issue more so recently than in the past. The home he lives in currently is very good at helping manage him and helping him when he is experiencing and how he is feeling. However, in the best interest of helping him make medical decisions, sometimes he walks out on med reviews. He will not agree to med changes because he doesn't want to, and it holds him back from probably feeling the best that he could. And being less symptomatic.
I'm gonna object, Your Honor. My objection is she's not qualified to discuss meds as a psychiatrist, as she is a psychologist, is my understanding. She's indicating what will happen if he does it, is not take medications, and really don't know if that's her expertise, as she's been qualified by this court as an expert in the field of psychology, not psychiatry.
So your objection is?
It is a reference to what him not taking medication would do, as she's not a psychiatrist.
Yes, the technical objection, though. Relevancy.
Relevancy, right?
Facts, none of that, okay.
No relevancy.
Ms. Barry, would you care to respond?
Ms. Flores is here as a treater. I think the court can take judicial notice that she's obviously familiar with the medications and their side effects. She's not making a prescribing decision, so I think it's entirely within her clinical scope.
Thank you. I do think she can offer her observations on these points. You're welcome to cross-examine her on that. As Ms. Barry, are you welcome to offer any additional foundational testimony on that point? So I'm going to overrule the objection for now.
Well, Your Honor, I would
think
then.
it goes rather to the weight rather than admissibility, and you're welcome to cross-examine.
I would then make an objection because it was not an observation, as you were saying. She was saying if he does, he could. Now, this is what I observed. So that would be my objection. That was not an observation, as the court just said.
Well, fair enough. But she's, as an expert, can also tell us what could or could not happen as a result of treatment, and part of the treatment component would be his medication regimen. So you're welcome to cross-examine on that, Mr. McCarthy.
Sure.
The objection's overruled. You may continue.
So in your opinion, Ms. Flores, is it your opinion and testimony to the court today that the appointment of a guardian, and specifically Barbara Foote, who has been nominated in this case, would be in Greg's best interest?
It is.
I have no further questions for Ms. Flores at this time.
Cross-examination?
Thank you. I noticed today before court, you asked Mr. Ferguson how old he is, or how old he will be, correct?
Yeah.
And he told you the correct answer, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. How many years would you say that he has a diagnosis that you indicated that he has?
His symptoms started showing at about 13 years old, and other ones started showing at about 16.
So from 13 to 16, all the way up to 53 years of age, he's not required a guardian in his life, correct? He's never had a guardian, correct?
No, he has not.
I don't see any reports where there's threatened harm to individuals in the home where he's at, correct?
Not in the home where he's at right now, no.
Now, I don't see in your report where there's threatened harm, or he's threatened to harm himself, correct?
No.
And we don't have a physician's report that if he does consume too much water, that it's creating any hazard for him, correct?
By his physician, no.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay. And you are not a physician, correct?
I am not.
He's not said that he wishes to move from his current location, correct? So what's going to really change if he has a guardian?
It would be helpful for him to have a guardian. I'm hesitant to talk about some of the symptoms that he has because they tend to, they shouldn't be addressing them in front of him. When Greg intakes too much water, sometimes he has hallucinations and delusions, and those can get exacerbated and lead to physical aggression. Sometimes this includes him not sleeping enough, and for days, sometimes upwards of 24 hours. These delusions and hallucinations include people that are not there, talking to people that are not there, and sometimes being aggressive with those people that are not there. They've led to slamming things in the home, not at Riverside. In the past, at previous residences, it has led to physical aggression with other people. The report that I wrote did not pertain to, it wasn't pertinent I didn't think to put what happened at other homes in the report. Try not to address these things in front of Greg because it's just typically how you shouldn't acknowledge these things in front of the person.
You don't have any firsthand knowledge of what's happened to other homes. This is secondhand what's been reported to you, correct?
No, I worked with Greg in the Jackson home. Those were on incident reports from the home when he lived in Jackson.
But you didn't physically observe that. This is still what was reported to you at that location, correct?
It was what was reported, yes. It is mandated to be reported, incidents that happen, yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
The excessive intake of water is a recognized psychological pathology, is it not?
Yeah.
That in addition to the other issues which you've raised in your report, correct?
Yes, and polydipsia is a common side effect of those who take lithium specifically.
Common side effect of what?
For people who take lithium and other antipsychotics specifically.
One last question. Have we ever met before professionally?
I think we met in one other case, but I think that's it.
Thank you. That's all.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Any other questions?
Just one. Did I understand you correctly that the symptoms of him maybe wanting to drink too much water is a result of his prescription medication?
It can be, yeah.
So, do you know of anybody who would address that being changed? Community mental health?
His doctor that he has through community mental health.
As far as you know, that's not been done yet?
No, because he refuses any med changes.
Okay. Just told you that personally?
It's been a concern with the doctor at
No, my question was, he's told you that personally, question mark?
Greg
Yes.
does? Yes.
Okay, nothing further.
Ms. Flores, do you know if there is a companion mental health file for Mr. Ferguson? Is he required to cooperate with treatment with CMH?
Anything that takes place at through the doctor should be in his medical health record, in our medical health record system. Their appointments should be on there, yeah.
All right. Do you know if he's ordered to cooperate with mental health treatment in any other legal cases, if you're aware?
I am not aware. That would be, I think, a question for Ms. Carpenter, honestly.
Great. I have her available, so that's convenient. Thank you for your testimony. We return it. All right, Ms. Verity, any other witnesses you'd like us to hear from today?
Since Ms. Carpenter's name just came up, I'll call her briefly and we'll address any questions there. Jen Carpenter, please.
Ms. Carpenter, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good afternoon, Ms. Carpenter. Could you please state for the court your name and your current occupation?
Yes, I am Jennifer Carpenter. I'm the clinical director at Community Mental Health for Lenawee County.
Can you tell the court what educational degrees you have?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in social work from Adrian College and a master's degree in social work from the University of Michigan.
How long have you been employed at Lenawee CMH?
A little over 11 years.
In that capacity, are you familiar with Mr. Ferguson in this case?
I have not worked directly with Mr. Ferguson, but I am familiar as I've supervised the individuals that work with him directly.
Are you familiar with the petition for guardianship that's been filed in this case?
I am.
And are you familiar with the fact of Mr. Ferguson's age being approximately 53, and this would be the first time that a guardian would be appointed for him if the court grants the requested relief?
I know his age is 53. I'm not sure if any prior petitions for guardianship have been filed.
In your experience with Mr. Ferguson in your employment at CMH, has he ever had a guardian?
Not that I'm aware of.
Can you tell the court just briefly what Lenawee CMH's policy is when a case like this comes up where a guardian could be beneficial, but a decision has to be made on whether to pursue that relief? Is it your first choice or the last choice that you make? And how do you go about that process?
Typically, that's one of our last steps. We try to work with the individual first because we always try for least restrictive method of care. We will do case consults internally. We'll meet with the psychiatrist. The treatment team will come together and try to brainstorm some ideas. Usually we'll work with individuals in their treatment and try to kind of help them along and explain the consequences of maybe not changing a medication or refusing a specific kind of treatment. And if we continue down that path and we're not able to reach a resolution, then we'll start looking at some alternative options like guardianship.
And is this a case where you feel that all other opportunities have been pursued before asking the court to appoint a guardian?
At this time, I believe so.
And in your professional experience as a mental health worker, do you believe that the guardianship as requested in the petition is in Mr. Ferguson's best interest?
Based on information I have on his care, yes, I do.
I do not have any further questions for Ms. Carpenter at this time.
Cross-examination?
Yes, Ms. Carpenter, your file does not reflect that my client is incompetent, correct?
Determined by the courts, you mean?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
I'm incompetent as determined by the courts?
Right.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so exploring all options, did you explore a patient advocate or a durable power of attorney with my client?
I'm not sure.
So you don't know if all options were explored then, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Mr. Brooks?
I have no questions.
Okay, Ms. Carpenter, do you know whether or not Mr. Ferguson's been subject to an involuntary mental health treatment order in the past?
He has. Well, let me see. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not mental health. So he has not been on an alternative treatment order. No, he has not.
All right. From my review of the report compiled by Ms. Flores, it seems that the primary need for Mr. Ferguson is around adhering to his mental health treatment. Is that accurate, or am I getting the wrong impression?
I guess I wouldn't have all of the information. I know that there's a lot of concern related to his mental health and then how that impacts his physical health and well-being.
Do you know if he has any financial affairs, for example? Like, and I apologize if this is an unfair question in advance. Like, is he on Medicare, Medicaid? Does he need to apply for SSI? Does he need assistance in determining where to live, or any of the areas that we would sometimes look for a guardian to perhaps be of assistance?
He has financial and insurance benefits. I'm not sure what exactly those are, as I'm not directly working with him, but I know he has those benefits in place in order to receive the care he's receiving.
And he's in a structured AFC type facility, is that right?
He's in a specialized residential facility.
Okay. Thank you so much. Can you tell me if you were part of the conversations about the decision as far as why you decided to ask for a guardian for Mr. Ferguson rather than asking for a mental health treatment order?
It was in portions of the conversations, yes, and a lot of it was related to difficulty with medication changes, refusal for medication changes, and then a lot of the physical health difficulties that came along with that. So the polydipsia, the potential problems with his health if that continued, and just needing some additional support to help him make those decisions that he's able to get the best care, he's able to receive the right medications, the right treatment, things of that nature.
Okay. So you feel with a guardian, that person could potentially advocate for him in those areas?
Yes.
Thank you, that helps me. Questions based on my questions, Ms. Barry?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
No, you are.
Mr. Brooks?
This man is resistant to any modification of his medications. Is that right?
From my understanding, yes. Again, I've not worked with him directly, but my understanding from what I've been told, yes.
And at the same time, he is displaying an excessive consumption of water, which even reduces the effectiveness of the medications he is willing to take. Is that right?
Yes.
And the net effect of that is two things, is that his situation is deteriorating. Is that accurate?
Yeah, to my knowledge, yes.
That's all.
Ms. Barry, anyone else you'd like me to hear from?
Your Honor, I would like to call Sheila Sears, the case manager, just to fill in some personal knowledge on some of these matters.
All right, welcome to the witness stand, Ms. Sears.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good afternoon, Ms. Sears. Could you please tell the court where you're employed and your current title?
I am an adult mental health case manager at Lenawee Community Mental Health Authority.
Can you tell the court your educational background, please?
My bachelor's degree is in psychology from Eastern Michigan.
How long have you worked as a case manager at Lenawee CMH?
2 years.
Have you been Mr. Ferguson's case manager that entire time?
No, I have been his case manager for around 1 year.
And you are the individual who filed and signed this petition for guardianship for Mr. Ferguson, correct?
Correct.
How many times have you met with Mr. Ferguson since becoming his case manager, roughly?
Probably about, officially I see him 1 to 2 times a month, but we talk all the time. He calls on the phone, so I would say about 50 times if you count telephone conversations.
Would you say you have a good relationship with Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Where is Mr. Ferguson living currently?
He lives in Pathlight home on Riverside in Adrian. It's a specialized residential.
Are you familiar with a process by which incident reports are generated if a consumer is having some difficulty?
Yes. Did you want me to? Oh, go ahead. Okay. When they live in a specialized residential home, if they deny medication, if they have aggression or have incidents that do not conform with the guidelines of the home. They are mandated to do an incident report.
Has Mr. Ferguson received any incident reports to your knowledge in the last year?
Yes, yes, since March 1st, he's had over 100 incident reports of last year.
In
not
your
this year.
experience,
Just to be clear.
in your
2024.
experience as a case manager, does the existence of a significant number of incident reports indicate anything to you?
I mean, it just indicates that they're not that their mental health is really a challenge for them and that they're struggling.
As you sit here today, is everything that you included in your petition that was filed with the court in this case, does it remain accurate?
Yes,
And you believe that it would be in Mr. Ferguson's best interest to have a guardian appointed as requested in this case?
yes,
Did you discuss the filing of this petition with Mr. Ferguson?
yes.
Does Mr. Ferguson have any family that's involved in his day-to-day life, to your knowledge?
He does have his mother and an aunt, but they're both unable to be his guardian.
They were asked and declined,
Yes.
to your knowledge?
Yes, yes, his aunt called and spoke to me and said that though she thought it would be in its interest to have a court-appointed attorney, she did not have the time, and she doesn't live close, that she would not be willing to take that guardianship.
Your petition asks for Barbara Foote to be nominated as the guardian appointed. Can you tell the court why you believe that Ms. Foote would be a good choice for a guardian for someone with Mr. Ferguson's challenges?
Ms. Foote is a court-appointed guardian who we're familiar with in the county, and she is very involved with her guardians. She meets with them monthly. She goes to their appointments and seems to truly care about her guardian, people that she's a guardian of.
Is there anything else about Mr. Ferguson or your guardianship request for him that you believe it would be important for the judge to know today?
I think everything was addressed in the petition.
I have no further questions for Ms. Sears at this time.
Cross-examination.
My understanding, Ms. Foote has not been out to visit him. Is that your understanding?
She has not yet because she hasn't been appointed.
So he's not had an opportunity to meet with her to find out whether they even mesh, correct?
Correct.
Don't you think it'd be appropriate for him to maybe be introduced to a person beforehand to see if they are going to mesh?
Yeah, I would be very willing to make that part of the process. Greg and I have talked, and it said, when he was appointed a guardian, that we would work together and make sure it was someone that would be a good match for him.
Now, Mr. Ferguson seems to be very comfortable with you, and that if there has to be a guardian, he would like it to be you. What are your thoughts?
I would like that also, but that is against CMH policy.
That's why I advised
The
him.
conflict of interest, but yes, I would enjoy that, but it's
So
against
these-
our policy.
These 100,
It's considered a conflict of interest.
You want work or what?
It's okay. We can talk later, okay, Greg? Okay,
your boss won't let it, okay?
it's okay. But we will talk later, okay?
Okay.
These 100 incidents were over what time frame?
It's March 1st of 2023.
Obviously, they're not enough to get him out of the home, right?
No, we really work with the home, and we, we want what's best for Greg, including the home.
And they're not elevated to the state where these incidents resulted in an arrest, correct?
No.
So incidents probably vary from minor to, I mean, they're,
Yes, from, concerns about spiders or, people that, Greg, thought were there that the home could not see. And refusing to take medication, those type of things. And there were quite a few over the, liquid intake, which, but we're working on that.
he's never had an ambulance call because of the liquid intake, correct?
No.
But there's never been any long-lasting harm to himself from that, that's your understanding, correct?
No,
These incidents didn't involve him assaulting others, correct?
no,
Yes, it did not involve.
no, it did not. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. I have no further questions.
Mr. Brooks?
You said he's in a specialized foster care home. What's their specialty?
Well, the Pathlight homes work really with anyone that is considered high needs, that needs that extra service and care. They also work with people that have disabilities and for mental health care.
So they are pre-screened before they accept them for admission to the facility?
Yes, they do a healthcare appraisal and decide whether or not.
That's all.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Sears, are you aware that for purposes of medication changes and compliance with mental health care treatment, a person who has a guardian, if that person actively objects to the interventions that the guardian would like to have put into place for them, that a mental health petition would still have to be filed?
Yes.
So how will it help us with Mr. Ferguson's medication changes and compliance with the behavioral treatment plan if he's objecting to it?
I think having that guardian and that extra person, I think Greg would listen to Ms. Foot to be able, because I think he'll just decide, that, oh, my guardian's telling me this and I'm gonna try to follow through.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and ask the uncomfortable question, and I apologize ahead of
No,
time.
it's okay.
Are you expecting Ms. Foot to consent to his medication, treatment, and care without acknowledging his objections to it?
No, I hope not. I mean, to me, a good guardian is going to consider the care of her, like, I don't know the proper term for the person that's a guardian of, sorry.
That's all right. Do you know in your experience if Ms. Foot has ever had to seek an order for involuntary mental health treatment?
I do not know. Mrs. Carpenter may know, but I personally do not know that.
Thank you. Questions based on my questions?
No, Your Honor.
Nope.
No.
All right, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anyone else, Ms. Bayardi?
I didn't see at the beginning. Is Ms. Foot present in the courtroom?
She is not.
Then it would be very difficult to call her. I have no further witnesses at this time.
Ms. McFarland?
Spoke with her earlier today, but not on this matter. Mr. Ferguson,
Yeah.
you'd like to talk, right? Should he go up to the stand, Your Honor?
I'm happy if you would like to come to our witness stand, but if he's more comfortable by you.
Where would you like to go? Okay, that's fine, Your Honor. They're gonna swear you in.
Can you raise your right hand? Thank you, sir. Can you look at me, sir? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, yeah.
You've indicated you'd like me to address you as Mr. Ferguson, right?
Mhm.
Say yes?
Yes.
Okay. The court reporter over there is typing down everything or recording it, so she has to hear you say something. Do you think that you need somebody to make decisions for you?
I don't need a person tell me what to do and what not to do, because all of us do this on my own. Like,
And do you have a preference of somebody who you would like to be your guardian if the court says you need one?
no, I can't really think of, and I don't need one, but if the court says I need one, I need one. But I go along. If I get hurt or something, or get sick, bipolar or anything, which I haven't had bipolar yet. I had bronchitis and pneumonia.
Were you able to seek medical help?
Yeah, I mean, with her, and I had to sign the paper. I'm on guardian, I had to sign the paper.
Now, you've heard them testify that you're not willing to see somebody about possibly changing your meds. Are you willing to go see somebody to see if you need to have your medications adjusted? Are you willing to do that?
Yeah, I gotta sign the paper. I'm gonna say it.
You'll do that?
No problem.
Okay. You're not threatening to move, right?
No, I ain't threatening nobody.
My
I
understanding,
don't threaten people unless they threaten me first.
my understanding is you don't mind where you're living, right?
That's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful people. We got Kathy sitting there. She's like, beautiful.
Okay. I'm glad you like where you're living.
I would like more. Allow me to go for a walk, though, to one place to come back.
Kind of near the lake there?
Not near the lake, just, just cross over a bridge and just walk around.
Okay. Anything else that you think is important for us to know here?
No, I know my mother's disabled right now because she's in the hospital or like a rehab, and she's getting operation, so she would be available to come get me.
Would you like to have met with Miss Foote before today's hearing to see what she's like?
I have never met her.
But would you have liked to have met her?
Either or, it don't matter.
Okay.
I'm telling the truth.
I have no further questions, John.
Ms. Verity?
I have no questions for Mr. Ferguson.
Mr. Brooks?
Sir, if you are happy where you're at, why are they reporting over 100 behavioral infractions in the last 12 months? Are they lying?
No, the only thing wrong with me, I slammed the door 9 times. I first come in. I apologize to mental health as much as possible. It never happened again for the 2.5 years and it's being used right now.
Now, the other day when you were in here, I read the report from the mental health care professional to you, and you denied that you'd had any hallucinations or delusions of any kind, didn't you?
I don't have delusions or anything because I signed it myself, and I cross-examined what she said and what the lawyer said, and all I know is I'm just gonna go there, sign the paper if I do become ILP again or whatever, or guardianship, either or. They don't accept that.
Well, would you agree with me? It's possible you don't remember having these episodes?
I don't feel the need, even in a stack of Bible, to tell people about my own consideration of my moment, my life, and stuff like that. I don't do that to people.
I'm not saying it was an
like,
intentional act.
with-
I'm asking if you remember having these episodes.
Oh, heck yeah, I had him, but that was within, years ago. It's been years, I've been to the hospital, remember, he was all happy, the team was.
And how long have you been in an AFC home or its equivalent? How long have you resided in a place like that?
I come from the Forensic Center, I did 26 years. Then I come from, which is Alcatraz, it was, based on, Northville.
You were in Alcatraz in Northville?
Northville, yes,
Alcatraz?
Northville.
Well, Northville is a mental health facility, isn't it?
Not too sure, I didn't get a lot of questions out of that part.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Redirect.
No, do have one additional witness.
Who would you like me to hear
I'd
from?
like to call the psychiatrist or psychologist, sorry, Ms. Flores.
Didn't we just do that?
I have another question for her.
Come on back up,
Pardon,
Ms.
Mr.
Flores,
Brooks.
thank you. You remain under oath.
Have you considered the possibility of a limited guardianship rather than a full guardianship for my client?
Oh, partial guardianship?
Sure, limited.
I suppose we could reevaluate it in 5 years. I'm not certain what would change. But if,
For example, he seems to be making okay housing decisions without a guardian, correct?
yeah,
So maybe a guardian is just necessary for, and the financial, that seems to be, nobody's asking for a conservatorship for finances, correct?
right,
So maybe if he needs a guardian, it might just be for mental health compliance, correct?
yes,
We don't have any reports of him not having any other physical ailments that aren't being treated, like broken bones that he's not getting help for, or diabetes or anything like that, correct?
true.
So would you, am I hearing that you would support a limited guardianship rather than a full?
I would go over exactly what that would mean for him, but my biggest concern is to support his mental health. That is my biggest concern. So in any way that would, anything would support his mental health is important. I would review that with, Ms. Carpenter and the case manager and, but I would support anything that, encourages his mental health. If a partial guardianship still does that, I would be willing to, say yes.
So when you review cases like Mr. Ferguson's, is a limited guardianship even on your radar? As an
Limited
alternative?
guardianships, when I look at other guardianships for most of the, for all other people I've ever worked with, it's been for people who are much more impaired developmentally than Greg. So I can't say, I can't really attest. For Greg, he's much more verbally high functioning, but as that last conversation just showed, there's some thoughts there that are a bit strange.
Do you know that that place was not named Alcatraz up there in the city of
Yes,
Northville?
I grew up in Northville, yes.
Okay, then you would know.
Yes.
Nothing further on.
Any more questions for Ms. Flores?
One recross. Ms. Flores, Mr. McFarland was raising the idea of a limited guardianship solely for the purpose of mental health care. If such a limited guardianship were put in place for Mr. Ferguson, would you have any concerns if a physical ailment would arise that his mental health condition could impact his ability to seek treatment appropriately?
No, I know the home monitors his health. He goes to all of his physical doctor's appointments fine. I've seen him at CMA being, visiting the nurse and having blood pressure taken, and he goes for things like labs and stuff. It's simply the medication changes that seem to be an issue. And that's what the concern is, but he has never had issues, as far as I know, going to the doctor, and getting a checkup, or if he has to go to the emergency room or what have you. I think he just recently was sick and had to go to the doctor, and he was fine doing that, so.
No further questions.
Mr. Brooks?
No questions.
Nothing.
Thank you for your testimony.
No further witnesses, Your Honor.
Great. Comments, Ms. Barry, in closing?
Your Honor, based upon the testimony that you've heard today, the petition that's in front of you and the reports that are attached, the petitioner would ask that you find that a guardianship is necessary for Mr. Ferguson as pled in the petition, and find that Ms. Foote, who I understand the court is aware of and has worked with in the past, would be a good choice as guardian, and enter an order appointing her.
Mr. McFarland?
Well, Your Honor, it would be nice if my client had the ability to have met the proposed guardian, so we know whether they mesh. The other thought would be all these incidents, or 100 or so, and the accounts of him drinking too much water do not seem to rise where they're a risk to himself. He's not been medicated, brought to the hospital or medical treatment for that. He's not been arrested. We don't hear any incident reports, criminal incident reports with the police regarding his behavior. He's done this for 53 years, since 13 to 16, and at least he's managed his own affairs. We still have the legal technicality, is he could say no, and then I'm not sure whether this is the right forum for what they wish to accomplish. If that's the case, I think the least restrictive would be a limited guardianship if the court were to go that route. Thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
I think Mr. McFarland raises a legitimate point. Are we even looking for a remedy that's going to solve the problem? I anticipate this man is going to continue to be an obstruction to changing his meds if he doesn't like the effect it has on him. And I don't know what a guardian's supposed to do. She's not going to stand over him and hold his mouth open while they pour the pills in. So I don't know what good it does other than having a limited guardian, to the extent she can convince him to cooperate. I do, however, as his guardian ad litem, want to point out a couple of things. Number one, he has had a case. His case number starts with 2016. So he has had an active case of some type for quite a while. Second, Mr. McFarland points out that he's done a pretty good job of selecting his home where he lives. I don't know anybody who selects going to an AFC home on their own volition. Maybe they do, but if they do, I don't know about it. And I don't think this man did. He's there, he likes it there. He's in a specialized home where they have difficult to manage people. That difficulty in managing is indicative of some sort of psychological pathology that needs 24-hour attention. And he's getting it. But I don't know what a guardian's supposed to be doing here that isn't already being done.
Thank you. Well, the court finds all interested parties were given notice for purposes of today's hearing. There is, under the law, the provision that allows someone to seek a guardian in the event that a proposed ward has a diagnosis of mental illness that impairs him or her to the extent that they may lack sufficient understanding or capacity to make or communicate informed decisions. I think that clear and convincing evidence burden has been met on this point. I have listened carefully to the testimony of the witnesses, including Mr. Ferguson himself. I have reviewed the statement prepared by Ms. Flores that documents the schizoaffective disorder bipolar type diagnoses. I've heard a number of times about delusions and hallucinations and how that can lend itself to aggressiveness and difficulty that obviously creates some incident reports, but also has led to a mental health filing in the past. My staff was good enough to look and find that in 23-52743, there was in fact a petition for mental health treatment, involuntary health treatment filed on behalf of Mr. Ferguson by Ms. Kathy Casey. This was about a year ago, almost a year ago to the day that this was requested, because at that time, again, there was discussion of the dyspepsia. There was also discussion of what's been happening with case managers and difficulties in getting Greg to cooperate. References to what was happening in previous homes. However, she then requested back in May of 2023 that the petition be dismissed or effectively withdrawn as Greg was cooperating and taking his medications. So I do think that we clearly have, the burden has been met as it relates to whether or not Mr. Ferguson is an incapacitated individual as the law defines it. I do find further that his condition would require that someone who's capable of acting in his best interests were appointed in the event that he does need to have somewhere else to live or to consent to and continuing to reside in a facility that can handle his challenges and make sure that they are doing their best to ensure he's getting his medications that he clearly needs for his diagnoses, and to continue to get along pretty well, frankly, with those who work with him on a daily basis. So I do think that based on my observations, the diagnosis, and the material that's been presented today, that Mr. Ferguson is a person who does need a total guardian. He clearly needs assistance with his activities of daily living, right down to how much water he drinks, and that has to do with the medication that he's taking. And those diagnoses are important for understanding his challenges and the side effects of the medications that are intended to alleviate those symptoms, both of his underlying diagnosis as well as his medications, and then a guardian could advocate in that context for him. In the event that there's an active objection by Mr. Ferguson, she would have to then file again in the mental health context to ask for any further intervention by the court. But I do think that this case is appropriate for a guardian, that Ms. Foote is an appropriate person to undertake that legal obligation. And I am granting the guardianship request. As I stated before, I think it meets the statutory requirements, and I hope certainly that this is actually something that would be perhaps a bit less restrictive than a full-blown mental health order for cooperation, considering that a guardian would clearly have the best interests of Mr. Ferguson in mind, not just with regard to his mental health, but overall. So for all those reasons, I am granting the request. I have signed the order as well as